Hi, my name is Carl Pearson, and this is my 36th video during my captivity on a variety of topics to help the 99%, including myself, to survive the multiple crises we are now facing. And I now want to look at the single most important doable reform to try to restore the U.S. to where it should be. I'm an attorney for 58 years. I went to Harvard Law School. I'm a high school dropout with no diploma, but I did graduate magna cum laude with a BA in 2.5 years. I've been a small business person since my paper route in Nebraska at age 9. I'm almost 84 years old, and I've been cooped up in the heart of the coronavirus in New York, for the past 74 days in an effort to live many years more. I have run for office on third-party tickets or sought nomination 6 times, and in 2012 I was one of 4 candidates seeking the nomination for U.S. President by the nation's 3rd largest party, and have been a private enforcer of the nation's antitrust laws for most of my attorney life. With this background, I want to lead you into the obvious solution of what is the most important reform. 1. The solution has to be doable and not just wishful thinking, such as an amendment to the United States Constitution. 2. The solution must be national instead of local to have as much impact as possible and as quickly as possible. 3. The immediate reason for our current problems seems to me to be the decreasing enforcement of the antitrust laws since the 1950s, and which is now at a point of almost total unenforceability. 4. Court packing is high on my list, but not number 1. Court packing in a long period of time, say 10 to 20 years, could result in restoring enforceability to the antitrust laws, but the number 1 problem would still continue. 5. There are tens of thousands of laws and decisions that need to be reversed or changed, which is not the one solution I am going to identify. 6. I spend a good part of a working day to look into a single problem and prepare my video text, but our elected officials don't have the time to do this because they are too busy traveling back and forth to their home states, attending re-election functions, meeting with voters and contributors, and being on the telephone attempting to raise money from rich fat cat contributors. 7. The impeachment process doesn't work. 8. Whereas 4 years as the interval between federal elections was warranted when there were no telephones, planes, faxes, or internet, 4 years is much too long to wait for a needed change in government. However, 4 to 5 years is the interval used by 152 countries, and 25 other countries elect at some other interval. Nevertheless, the faster moving parts of a country seem to require a 2-year period, and this cannot be created federally by statute. That change would take a constitutional amendment, and remember, we're not looking for that. It takes too long and it's too difficult to achieve. 9. Congress can be stymied by rules that give the majority leader, that is Senator McConnell or Speaker Pelosi, the right to prevent proposed legislation from having a vote, even when a majority want to approve the proposed legislation. 10. Statutes that purport to equalize the financial disparity among candidates and parties don't in fact provide any money at all to the vast majority of candidates, as I found out when I ran for mayor of New York City a few years ago, because of high prerequisites in contributions and the number of contributors, or federally the need to get at least 5% of the national vote to obtain close to $100 million in taxpayer donations for this purpose. They think they're giving it to minority parties, but it only goes to either the Republicans or the Democrats. Nobody else gets any money. 11. What is needed instead is having a single-payer campaign financing paid directly by the federal government and an election process that lasts a short period of time, such as 3 months, with all states having nominating conventions and primaries at the same time. No money could be spent by or for a candidate or party, and all candidates would be given a sum of money to spend, the same for each candidate for a given office, but scaled to the office and location. Citizens United would have to be reversed, and if it is not a court packing, would probably result. Meaning that Citizens United needs a court packing if they don't reverse it themselves. Most, if not all, of this is doable, something which could be enacted into federal law. 12. If all candidates for the same office had the same amount of money in their campaign, the rich could not as easily buy elected officials, and the persons winning elections would become more democratic, that is, with a small d, so that you and I and the other 99% would have a real chance of being elected. 13. Campaign financing reform, as I have indicated, is the most important reform, which would enable the other needed reforms to have a better chance of being adopted. You now have been told what to me seems to be the most important. First needed, doable reform to enact into federal law, which is campaign financing reform. I'll be back soon with my next video.